呢，这一段各位观众朋友千万别错过。当各台呢都在谈这个民进党家务事的时候，我们要把我们的眼光提升到国际的舞台。今天我们要连线一位神秘嘉宾，他应该是台湾媒体有史以来访问这个美国层级最高的一位。是川普吗？差一点点。他是川普非常倚重的一位好朋友。他是2016年川普跟蔡英文通电话的川蔡通电话的关键推手。到目前为止，他仍然是川普总统随时可以见面咨询台湾问题跟中国问题的重要伙伴。他是曾任美国白宫首席策略师 （White House Chief Strategist） 兼美国总统顾问的 Steve Bannon 班农。好，你会问我说，政经看民视为什么有办法访问到班农？答案很简单 ，Where there is a will, there is a way。有志者事竟成，只要不维持现状，什么事都有可能。好，千载难逢的机会，我们来连线在美国 Washington D.C. 的 Steve Bannon。Hello, Steve.
Hey, Dennis.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. First of all, on behalf of our 16 million loyal audiences around the world, I would like to thank you for your support for Taiwan.
Dennis, look, as a young naval officer, I visited Taiwan many times in the 1970s. I've got a great love for the country and a great love for the people. So thank you very much for saying that. But it's my honor and my pleasure to support Taiwan and the people.
So were you in the U.S. Navy in 80s?
I was in the Navy actually in the 70s and the 80s. From 1976, 77, I made 2 deployments with the Pacific Fleet on a destroyer to Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, China, and then later the Indian Ocean and the Persian Gulf. Wow.
Can you share a little bit about your experience in Taiwan?
And yes, we pulled into the port city. I think it's Kaohsiung, the port city of Taipei. Our ship would be tied up there. The crew would go on liberty in Taipei. There was a great love for the Taiwanese. People had a great time. You know, back in those days, we used to navigate the Straits of Taiwan and not think 2 seconds about it. You know, we sent carrier battle groups to their destroyers. It was a very different era. But I can tell you that the United States Navy loved pulling into Taiwan, and the crew loved going ashore in Taipei.
Wow. Okay, before we start the interview, can you enlighten us with your presentation at the Committee of Present Danger China? Why is it important for the world, including Taiwan, to seriously acknowledge the danger caused by China?
Look, in the nation's capital today in Washington, D.C., on Capitol Hill, we had the second meeting of the Committee on the Present Danger, which is a committee that really formed in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s about the threat of the Soviet Union to the United States and the rest of the free world. The new committee, the one focused on China, and my speech today was really to address the American people and warn them about this economic and information war that the radical cadre, not the Chinese people, but the radical cadre that runs the CCP, that runs the Chinese Communist Party, this war that they're bringing, this economic war they're bringing against all the industrial democracies, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, all of Western Europe, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, how they're behaving themselves, and how it's time for the United States to stand up. President Trump's done a tremendous job, but he needs more support from the American people and more support for people throughout the world. So this is really the second time we've done this. We're now going to take this out throughout the country, the United States, and build even more support for President Trump in really confronting China on its behavior that's just unacceptable.
As the 40th anniversary of Taiwan Relation Act, the relationship between Taiwan and the United States did not significantly improve. On the contrary, the United States gradually became close to the Chinese market in the era of Carter, Kissinger, and even Clinton. What do you think the future development of U.S.-Taiwan relationships? Should Taiwan be more proactive? Any suggestions?
Yes, I think Taiwan's definitely got to be more proactive, but I think it's also to the United States. I think we're in a great inflection point. You know, the Trump administration has really, we took the first phone call from the president of China in our first days after winning. And there's been, I think, a very close bond between Taiwan and the United States during the entire Trump administration. And I think this has even got to get even closer. You know, Taiwan's been a terrific partner. Taiwan's now one of the most robust democracies in the world. It's a leader in science, technology, medicine. It's a great example of how a free people in a robust democracy that have freedom of speech and freedom of religion can thrive and prosper. I think it's a great example for the world. And I think it's a great example for actually the Chinese on the mainland of what could be, what they could accomplish if they didn't have these kind of overlords, if they didn't have these dictators in this radical cadre of the CCP that essentially enslaved them. And so I think it's, I think 40 years ago, we were in a very different situation. I believe people in the United States understand the importance of the relationship with Taiwan and what Taiwan means to Japan, what Taiwan means to South Korea, and what Taiwan means to the freedom of all people in East Asia and in the Western Pacific.
Okay, Mr. Guo Wengui, your friend, claimed you were the key person arranged the phone conversation between President Tsai and President Trump on December 2nd, 2016. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, Miles Kwok is a great patriot, and I think an expatriate from China that's got the great love of the Chinese people and trying to free them from being enslaved by the CCP. I think what Miles was talking about, I would never like to take personal credit, but I was part of the team around then President-elect Trump that recommended to him that he did take the phone call from the president of Taiwan. I thought it would be very important and very symbolic about the beginning of a new relationship, and really calling into question this attitude of this radical cadre of the CCP that, quite frankly, thinks they own the Straits of Taiwan, thinks they own the South China Sea, they think they own the East China Sea, they think these are all territorial seas of China, and nothing could be farther from the truth, and actually think that they own Taiwan. So I thought that phone call was very important to take, and I'm glad the President-elect Trump at the time took the phone call and I think had a 10-minute conversation, very friendly and positive conversation with the president of Taiwan.
The Mr. Guo also mentioned that the arrangement was leaked to Beijing, and former Chinese ambassador to the United States, Yang Jiechi, immediately flew to D.C. in an attempt to stop it. Is there such a thing? Any idea who leaked the news?
Well, I think what happened is that there was consultants, I think people working with the Taiwanese to set this up. I think what Miles was talking about is that after the phone call was made, obviously you read in the papers, this has been publicly reported, the Chinese were furious. They were furious at President-elect Trump and the team around him for taking the phone call. And one of the things you have to remember is President Trump was elected to be a disruptor. President Trump was elected by the American people, was essentially hired by the American people to be president of the United States, to be the commander-in-chief, to really question the policies that the American elites had put the United States of America and its allies in over the last 20, 30, 40 years. Central to that was the way that the American elites, the people on Wall Street, the corporations, the political class here in Washington, D.C., and the State Department had kind of accommodated China with all its bad behavior. And I think President Trump wanted to send a very strong signal from the very first days of his administration. This is really when we're in the transition period, that he was going to do things very differently. It's been publicly reported the Chinese were furious. They flew over. We had meetings. President-elect Trump would not meet with them. Senior officials flew over, and we met with them over a couple of days, of which they laid out their positions. And we said, look, this is a new administration. This administration was hired by the American people to return America to our former greatness. And there's going to be essentially a new sheriff in town. And there's going to be a new way things are done. And I think you saw from the very beginning that President Trump and the Trump administration have engaged in a confrontation with China to challenge China and to challenge this radical cadre of the Chinese Communist Party on all of their behavior, particularly their behavior the way they run their economy and these trade disputes.
Was President Tsai Ing-wen hesitated about the phone arrangement with President Trump? In fact, there were news about saying that you were disappointed with Taiwan's reaction to this unprecedented event that money can't buy.
Well, I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but this was a seminal moment. Remember, I think it was for 40 years. No American president had ever taken the phone call of a leader of Taiwan. And I think that this was a very seminal moment. And I anticipated that it was going to be played up much more. I can understand the political pressure that Taiwan's under and that the president was under. And so I fully understand that. But I think it was a unique opportunity, particularly the way it rattled the senior level of the Chinese Communist Party. I'm glad that, and I think that people have been working towards even a closer relationship with Taiwan over the last couple of years. So I think this set a very good marker. I think it was a great start. I think we've worked towards getting a closer relationship on many, many fronts with Taiwan. And I think, it's obvious that Beijing hates that, because Beijing believes that, Taiwan belongs to them, and the Taiwanese people, the people of Taiwan, believe that they're free and independent people. And so I think that it's that difference that is driving this issue.
Many of Taiwan's ministers of the Department of Defense all have similar statement that Taiwan would not choose sides between the United States and China. What's your comment?
Well, I don't know if, look, I don't want to get involved in the discussions or come between members of the security apparatus of Taiwan. That's for the people to decide. Now, one of the great things about Taiwan is that you're a very open and free and robust democracy. In fact, I would argue one of the most robust democracies in the world. There, as you know, in your political process, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of tension, and I think that's a healthy thing. People can express their differences of opinion in Taiwan. I think it's one of the reasons Taiwan's a great example for the people of the world. I think it's one of the reasons that Taiwan's a great example for the people in mainland China. And I think it's one of the reasons that people in Beijing hate what goes on in Taiwan, because it shows you what a free people can accomplish, what a people that have the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, that have personal property rights, that have essentially the rule of law, of how much the Chinese people can accomplish, whether it's in Hong Kong, Taiwan, or the United States. And so I would hope that, I don't think the situation is, Taiwan needs to choose between the United States and Beijing. I think Taiwan chooses every day. And Taiwan chooses every day because Taiwan's a free country based on the shoulders of a free people that vote in a democracy.
Okay. Well, Taiwan's such kind of a strategy be an obstacle to U.S.-Taiwan relations. Do you have any suggestions on breakthrough or improve the relationship with Taiwan?
Listen, I think we just have to keep going down the path of, every day I think people are working towards trying to make this relationship better. You see it on the military side about sale of military equipment. I would hope that there would be more of exchanges of people. I would hope that Taiwanese people would invite more media over to Taiwan, would invite more young Americans over to Taiwan. As I tell people, as soon as you go to Taiwan and see how great the people are, see how great the country is, see how much they've accomplished with such little resources, see the drive and determination of the Taiwanese people, you can't but help but be impressed. I think one of the greatest things we have going for us is more personal exchanges. And so I think the biggest thing we can do is exchange people. You should bring more media over. We should have more Taiwanese media over also. I've also been an advocate here in Washington, D.C. I think we ought to cut an independent free trade deal with China. You're one of the largest trading partners with Japan. You're a large trading partner with the United States. I think we should have our own bilateral reciprocal trade agreement with Taiwan. So that would be one of my recommendations also. Anything that can bind us closer together, I think is a good and positive thing.
Great. What is the chance for President Trump to be re-elected? Do you think Taiwan Economic and Cultural Representative Office will be possibly renamed as the Taiwan Embassy, or even formal diplomatic relation with the United States also will United States help Taiwan to participate in international organizations such as United Nations?
Look, first off, I think President Trump, as you follow the media, is going through a very tough time here now with all these investigations, the House of Representatives. You know, elections have consequences, as folks in Taiwan know. The president lost the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives in our system controls all the investigative apparatus over the administration. It's very, very tough here right now. There's a lot of contention, a lot of debate, but I think President Trump is getting through this. I happen to believe, and I was the senior executive on the last campaign, I happen to believe that President Trump is going to get these investigations fine. I think he's going to cut a very tough and historic trade deal with China, which I think will be one of the central pieces of the 2020 campaign. And I believe that President Trump will win. As I see it right now, I don't see any of the Democrats matching up one-on-one with President Trump. And I think as he takes care of the southern border and starts to build the wall, as he cuts a major trade deal with China, I believe it sets him up perfectly to have a historic win in 2020. What comes from the office, whether it's the embassy, et cetera, I think that's getting ahead of things. I think what people ought to focus on is how do we get stronger relationships? How do we get stronger binding between Taiwan and the United States? And I think that comes from some basic work, and that is a lot of cultural exchanges, a lot of media exchanges, a lot of people working together, getting more tourists over to Taiwan, getting more businessmen over to Taiwan, and getting Taiwanese people here to the United States. I think those type of bonding efforts are going to go a long way in bringing these two countries together. And like I said, I think the more that people in the United States, the more people in Europe see Taiwan, see the freedom, and see what can happen to a people that have freedom and how much they can achieve and how successful they can be. I think your guys are a great example to the entire world. And that's why I think we ought to go and really focus on business, economic, and cultural exchanges.
Okay, thank you. The Time magazine claimed 3 U.S. government officials say that Trump administrations will suspend the arms sales of F-16V to Taiwan until U.S.-China has reached an agreement. Is this true? Do you think President Trump will soften his attitude toward Beijing in order to reach a trade agreement with China?
Look, the Chinese trade deal is one of the centerpieces of his administration. You should know, and the people in Taiwan should know, he's under tremendous pressure by Wall Street. Every day they're talking about the stock market will collapse, the economy will collapse, unless he basically signs a trade deal with China. What President Trump is doing is going for major structural changes in the Chinese economy about intellectual property theft, forced technology transfers, and subsidies given to state-owned industries. All of these issues affect people, working people in Taiwan, just like they affect working people in the United States of America. So you remember, when President Trump's fighting for this deal, he's fighting for you. He's fighting to make sure that you have a better life. And so that's why I think right now we got to back President Trump. I haven't heard of anything that there's going to be any trade-off about issues in Taiwan related to this. But this is a very, very difficult negotiation. And remember, it's just the first of many. The one thing that separates Donald Trump from every other American president we've had is he has looked at the facts of the Chinese relationship. And though he does like and he admires President Xi, they have a very strong personal relationship. He is the first American president to confront China in this economic war that China's been running on the industrial democracies, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, the United States, Canada, and all of Western Europe. Donald Trump's the first person to confront China on this, and now you see it. We're down to the heart of this negotiation. So I haven't heard that he'll trade off Taiwan for everything, but I would tell the people in Taiwan they should stay very focused on these negotiations.
Okay, lastly, there was a 57 minutes video made by Miles Gore last Sunday. He claimed that Mr. Bannon was planning to visit 5 cities in Taiwan last year and also meeting former President Chen Shui-bian and Li Denghui. Is this true that your visit was declined by President Tsai Ing-wen?
Yeah, no, I don't know if the visit was declined. I went and spoke at the invitation of CPAC and other conservative and freedom groups in Japan. I went in December of 2017. I went to Japan, and I think I spent like a week or 10 days going around and talking and addressing different freedom groups. There had been some people that approached me about also going to Taiwan at the time, but things didn't work out. There were some rumors about the president, but I never paid attention to them. I just know we couldn't pull the trip off. I think what's most important, though, and this is very important for Taiwan, I think you need strong leadership. And I think strong leadership, as I see it, and I'm somebody that, I'm a hawk here in the United States. I have a great love for the Chinese people. I spent a lot of time in China. I've owned businesses in China. I lived in Shanghai for a while. I have a deep and abiding love for the Chinese people that I think have been abused by this radical cadre of the Chinese Communist Party, which I think is an absolute totalitarian dictatorship. But I think that Taiwan, at this point in time, needs strong leadership. And when I say strong leadership, I mean strong leadership that is dedicated to the fact of keeping Taiwan free, independent, and to keep this robust democracy that really is a light to the rest of the world of what people can do when they put their faith in God and they put their faith in their fellow man and they put their faith in their country. And I think Taiwan's a great complement to all the great virtues that we see throughout the world. And I would say at this point in your history, what you need is strong leadership.
Actually, one last question. Do you think Taiwan should propose a National Defense Act to stop Chinese infiltration?
Listen, I think one of the key things about Taiwan is that it's unacceptable, I think, as an outside observer. And I'm not Taiwanese, but I'm someone that is dedicated a substantial part of my life to working on these issues of kind of populism, nationalism, and sovereignty for the little guy throughout the world. And I think that, China infiltrating into Taiwanese institutions, into the Chinese political process, into other areas of life of Taiwan, to me, it would be unacceptable. I mean, you have proven beyond any doubt that you know how to govern yourselves, right? I think the track record of Taiwan is one for the entire world to look at and say, look at what these people have done with very few resources. Look at the robust economy. Look how they're world leader in medicine and science and technology. It's something to be very proud of. And I think to have this radical cadre of the Chinese Communist Party that's bound and determined to enslave you, and to do that, one of the reasons that what they're trying to do is under the dark of night is to infiltrate, institutions in Taiwan and to try to change the attitude of the Taiwanese people. I don't know if you have to make an act. I'm not that involved in the day-to-day of Taiwan politics, but I think that obviously you know how to govern yourselves. You don't need to be told that by any outsiders. You don't need to be told by the Americans. You certainly don't need to be told by Steve Bannon, but you obviously do not need to be told that by Beijing, that has no earthly idea about what democracy is.
Thank you so much for your precious time and comments. Steve, please let me know if you are planning to visit Taiwan. I would love to drive you around.
Dennis, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, by the way, please say hi to President Trump. I have tried to invite him.
Next time I see him, I'll say all his friends in Taiwan say hi. I will.
I have tried to invite him for an interview through various channels for a long time. And please tell Donna I'm his #1 fan. It would be great if he can give me a chance to interview him, even it's only 10 seconds.
My recommendation is send us a photo with a MAGA hat on, and we'll pass it along.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.